And welcome everybody to the First Call podcast presented by First Bet and Express Bet. Each Friday, Jeff Siegel and Jeremy Plonk join you to handicap 8 stakes races around North America this week as we head to Woodbine. It's Woodbine Mile Day. We've got some people, Bailey Armour from First Bet's up there getting some social media content for us. Eddie Olczyk's up in Woodbine for the NBC telecast of the Woodbine Miles. So, Jeff, we're going to cover every bit of this continent that we can on this week's show.
Lots of good racing around the country, not the main venues in California and New York as the Belmont-at-Aqueduct meeting kicks off with one stakes, but Pimlico's got a lot of action this weekend on stakes. We've got Woodbine. It's their big day for sure. And Churchill is loaded as well. So we're going to go and look at some of these lesser, I wouldn't say they're lesser tracks, but they're lesser in terms of what I look at, because it's California, New York, and the rest is behind. But still great racing around the country, and we will dive in and see if we can pick some winners for you.
And coast to coast in Canada, it's British Columbia Derby Day on Saturday. I know you've got that one on your radar. We got a promo at Express Bet you can check out on that one. Hey, and if you like to play the harness racing this weekend, this is a good opportunity. At Woodbine Mohawk on Saturday night, there's a $429,000 carryover in the Super High Five. It'll be race number 12 on the card. 20 times Express Bet wager reward points and First Bet wager rewards points when you play that race with First Bet and Express Bet. $429,000 in a carryover, and it's a one race kind of thing. They always say it's hard to beat the races, Jeff, but you can beat a race. Well, when you get a carryover like that in a super high five, you've only got to really dial down one race. It's not easy to hit, obviously, but the jackpot provision is gone. It will be a payout on Saturday night at Woodbine Mohawk. Al Samagli, our harness handicapper, gives you some sense of how to construct your ticket. Check that out on YouTube and on the blog section at news.first.com. So a lot going on this weekend. Sea to shining sea across Canada as well. So let's get into the action. Here is our stakes menu for you this week. For those of you following on video, you can take a look at the 8 races we've got for you. For those following on our podcast channels and listening in on your favorite podcast providers, we go to Pimlico first for the Baltimore-Washington International Turf Cup, the former DC International. We'll go to Aqueduct for the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational. Then Churchill Downs for their first weekend of the September stand. Kick off to the Kentucky Derby and Oaks Trail with the Pocahontas, the Iroquois, and then the Locust Grove for the Breeders' Cup Distaff Division, and to Woodbine for the biggest day in September in Canada. It's Woodbine Mile Day. The Summer and the Talma for the 2-year-olds on the turf lead into the Woodbine Mile, our feature race, which is also the Express Bet race of the week. So, Jeff Siegel, let's get to handicapping here on the show. We start off at Pimlico on Saturday. You mentioned they have a big day. How about 6 stakes races overall? They got the Ben's Cat, several on the turf. They're off the turf today at Pimlico, let you know, but the forecast is good for the weekend. We should be on the grass and looking forward to that. Maybe preserving the turf course a little bit today for tomorrow with so many good stakes races on the dirt and turf at Pimlico. I mentioned it's the former Washington, D.C. International. This is the race that your grandfather might tell you, or maybe Jeff Siegel will tell you about Kelso and Fort Marcy.
I will.
and I can tell you about all along winning this in the 1980s. But since we got to the Baltimore-Washington Turf Cup as a new version of the DC International, it's been a little bit of a regrowth for the race. A grade 3 race now worth $200,000 and goes to Pimlico on the short Pimlico stand. This race has been at Laurel in recent years. So back to Pimlico for the BWI Turf Cup. It's race number 10 on Saturday. So Jeff, start our handicapping here. Give us your sense of what you like here in Baltimore.
I remember Bald Eagle winning it, and that's got to be 60 years ago. I mean, so it was a really classic race. It was the Breeders' Cup Turf before the Breeders' Cup Turf.
Right.
And we had, it was back then, by the way, we did not have a stream of Europeans come over. They came over, but not like they do now.
Right.
And it was really exciting to see the international competition because it was the only way we had could ever see it. So it was a great race in its day. This race now is a mile, and the internationals aren't really bothering with it too much anymore. I mean, 200,000 is chump change for some of those horses. But this race is a good gambling race, I think. It's a good, solid race, good competitive race, which is what we're looking for. And I ended up going with number 3, Highest Distinction. Now, one of the things I looked at in this gelding is it looks like, 4 out of 20, he's just kind of an exclaimer. But since this horse has transferred stables and joined the Lindsay Schultz barn.
Right.
Highest Distinction is not what he used to be. He's much, much better. The numbers are stronger. The consistency is stronger. He was second 3 races back, won a good starter race, and then won the stake in the Oceanport. And again, numbers-wise, he's right there. He's got a great style where he sits right behind the leaders and kicks on with it. Nice inside draw here. And while you certainly can make a case for Wolfie's Dynaghost and a few others in here, I'm going to go with the now horse, the improving horse, Highest Distinction, to continue his winning streak and win this race.
When he won the Oceanport last time, they don't close well on the turf at Monmouth historically compared to other turf courses, and he got no pace help whatsoever. So that's like a double plus to rally and win that race in the Oceanport. Let's go back and take a look at it with Chris Griffith on the mic.
They reach the top of the lane. The rail opens up here for He's Pure Gold. Big Everest is still in front. Highest Distinction is out in the center of the course who kicks on. Here's Highest Distinction who's ready to challenge. There Are No Words is making up some ground on the outside as well. It's now Highest Distinction trying to hold off There Are No Words. Highest Distinction in front, sprints away, is up by a length and a half. Highest Distinction wins the Oceanport Stakes. Highest Distinction over There Are No Words. Then
One more note about that BWI Turf Cup. Wolfie's Dynaghost is entered in the race, but he's also cross-entered on Monday at Presque Isle Downs in the Presque Isle Mile, part of the undercard on Masters Day. He's a synthetic specialist. My gut tells me he'll probably end up at Presque Isle, so if you're handicapping that race on Saturday, Wolfie's Dynaghost, keep an eye out for the scratches, but again, cross-entered in Stakes Company on Monday at Presque Isle Downs. Let's shift gears now from Pimlico and the BWI Turf Cup to the Belmont-at-Aqueduct meet. They call it Belmont at the Big A. I call it Aqueduct. If you're running an Aqueduct, it's Aqueduct. This is the 4th edition of the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational. In the 3 previous years, we saw a French filly win it in 2019. It was not held in 2020 during the COVID year. And then the past 2 years, Chad Brown won it with Shanty Sarah, and last year with McCulloch. But Chad Brown's not here, and that's strange for a 3-year-old grade 3 type race. $350,000 on the turf for the fillies. No Chad Browns in here, but we do have a horse coming in from Europe named Eternal Hope. Charlie Appleby's got a few coming to the U.S. this weekend. What do you make of this filly, Eternal Hope, the even money morning line favorite?
Well, on pure form, she's better than these. You look at this filly and lightly raced a 3-year-old filly. She was the winner of the Oaks trial, 12-1 in the actual Epsom Oaks itself. Obviously didn't run well that time. Came back and ran well at Deauville, going 1.25 miles. The only concern I have with her, sometimes I look at the comment. I mean the running lines, and then the chart summary. And what I look here on the form is it says keen hole to touch 3 races back. And I don't want her to get too keen in this race because going 1 mile and 3/8, you've got Coral, who's clearly going to go to the front. And Eternal Hope goes after her and pulls real hard and doesn't switch off, which it might happen in a small field with a slow pace. Then she might do herself in. So that's the concern I have. But if she drops her head, relaxes, and uses Coral as a prompter, then I think Eternal Hope will outclass this field. Now, Charlie Appleby hasn't had the greatest of runs this year, not like before where he sent anything over and it would win.
Right.
But this filly is obviously in form. I mean, she's fit. She's coming off a race on August 20th, so she's right there. I mean, she hasn't had any layoffs. And clearly, Appleby knows the kind of filly he can bring over here that will do well. So, I got to go with her. I'm not saying even money is any kind of great gamble or anything like that. But if she reproduces a European form, Eternal Hope will beat this field.
Well, let's take you to Deauville for that race last time out for her, August 20th, as Jeff mentioned, the Prix à la Quai. This was Group 2 company. It's in French, so brush up on your high school and college education if you took French. The 3 in the Godolphin Blue going to be contesting for the lead in here as we pick it up in the stretch.
La dernière ligne droite, Lumière Rock est côté corde, Eternal Hope est lancé à son extérieur, Jenna Rose qui vient en dehors, c'est la casaque noire. Pensée du jour maintenant est en 4e position. Eternal Hope de mieux en mieux avec Lumière Rock et puis Jenna Rose maintenant qui est lancée à l'extérieur. Jenna Rose de mieux en mieux, Lumière Rock qui se défend bien à l'intérieur avec Eternal Hope qui est en 3e position. Jenna Rose de plus en plus fort avec Lumière Rock qui vient à l'intérieur. Jenna Rose qui va triompher, avoir à la photographie peut-être avec le numéro 4, Lumière.
Soft ground there, and a jockey change from William Buick to Jamie Spencer. Of course, that's not for any negative reason because William Buick is riding for Appleby at Woodbine on the Woodbine Mile, and they've got the favorite in that one we'll talk about a little bit later. Jamie Spencer gives American horse players one more chance to curse his name in the U.S. for the last 20 years. I know he's had some rides that over the years at Arlington have drawn the angst of people, even pre-Twitter. So we'll see if Spencer can get home the favorite here in the Belmont Oaks Invitation.
I think he messed up in the Breeders' Cup at Lone Star. I think he did something bad that day.
That's 2004. So yeah, we're still holding it 19 years later. So
I don't know what he did in that or if even I didn't look it up, but it just kind of triggered a memory. But he's still a very competent rider. But but actually, I looked at that race at the video, and I actually thought she ran well at that, even though she had no excuse. But those two fillies that beat her are better than what she's worried about here. And I thought she stayed on well enough. So, Eternal Hope looks like she shouldn't miss this opportunity.
All right, that's the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational. We talk Oaks next because next year's Kentucky Oaks fillies get their first steps on the trail, if you will, into $300,000 Grade 3 Pocahontas. It's Saturday's 7th race at Churchill Downs. It's a one-turn mile. Now, the Pocahontas Stakes, again, is the kickoff to the, Breeders' Cup trail in Kentucky, if you will, towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies and also towards the Kentucky Oaks next year. It's not a race, though, that's had a lot of success over the years. Most of the horses that have won the Pocahontas really haven't gone on to a lot of great things, but every once in a while we get a Serengeti Empress or an Untappable who wins this race and really stamps themselves as a major superstar. But a lot of times it's about who's right now. Mrs. Right Now, Miss Right Now is what you're looking for. Who's sharp to go a mile? A lot of these in just their second career start, maybe third career start, as we look at this Pocahontas field of 9. Jeff Siegel, where are you leaning here?
Well, this race is difficult because 6 out of the 9 entrants are coming off wins. And they're all of these fillies are at various stages of development and improvement. One thing about 2-year-old fillies, they don't stay the same. They may go backwards, but a lot of them go forwards, but you don't know how much. Right. And this what made and a one-turn mile is unique to these fillies because most of them have been sprinting. And it's difficult. So what I did is I ended up defaulting to the filly coming out of the best race. At least I think it was. Vivi's Dream broke her maiden first time out by 6 at Churchill, which is good because I know she likes the track. Right. And she looked terrific in that race. I mean, she really did. And I wasn't the only one who thought that because in her next start in the debutante at Ellis, which was going to be at Churchill, but they moved it to do to Ellis, she was 30 cents in the dollar and got beat. But that wasn't any ordinary filly who ended up beating her. Right. We're talking about Brightwork. So, and she was 5 clear of everybody else. So she's had some rest in between now. She's had a couple of months, and I think she's going to return in good form. The work tab at Saratoga is very healthy. She's kept on nicely back at Churchill with enough early speed to be right in the fray every step of the way. I like Vivi's Dream at 5-2 to win the Pocahontas.
She's coming out of the right barn. Kenny McPeak's won this race 3 of the last 8 years. He won it last year with Fun and Feisty. So Vivi's Dream in the right hands. Brian Hernandez rides back after that tough loss to Brightwork last time. Again, you mentioned Brightwork. She's gone on to become a major graded stakes winner at Saratoga. She'll be one of the favorites towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies with a good final prep. Let's go back and look at that debutante from Ellis Park.
For home, trying to cut the corner on Vivi's Dream. Whip is out on Vivi's Dream. Brightwork has put away Vivi's Dream so far. Kicks away by 2. Vivi's Dream has to re-rally. She's trying hard. Brightwork digs in. Vivi's Dream still second. Time running out. Brightwork desperate for the wire. Holds on.
We'll see if she can one-up that performance. Vivi's Dream, Jeff's top pick in the Pocahontas Stakes. That's race number 7, Saturday at Churchill Downs. We turn the page next at Churchill to the 9th race on the card. The next stakes up is the Iroquois. This is a 1-mile race here for the 2-year-old colts. Horses may be heading towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and we look at Breeders' Cup nominees in this race. All 9 of them are Breeders' Cup eligible. So horses coming out of here, you have to think could be headed to Santa Anita here coming up in a month or so's time. We haven't seen a lot of horses come out of this Iroquois, though, and really go on to become great older horses. Again, we talked about the occasional horse, an untappable Serengeti Empress on the filly side. You've got to go back to Court Vision in 2007 to find the last winner of the Iroquois who really went on to become a good older horse. So we're looking for a horse who's good right now. We've seen the Dennis's moments and the not this time, horses that may have had short careers but were very brilliant early in their careers. That's the kind of horses who have won this race in the past. Jeff, do we have a horse like that in this year's field, and can you identify him?
Yeah, we might. This is a big step up for some of these going from maiden to this grade 3 event. But Risk It won his debut. He was bet like he was supposed to win. He did. He won from the rail sprinting. That's not the easiest thing to do. Right. He did it with a solid, not brilliant, but solid number. But he did it like a colt that will enjoy a one-turn mile. This is the logical projection for him. He has a bullet work at Saratoga since his most recent race, and this is obviously the race that Asmussen has been pointing for. Right. Didn't want to run him back that quickly, obviously, in the race, the hopeful. So this is a spot for him, and I think going a one-turn mile, he'll be very good. And he's a gun runner who is supposed to get better with age and distance, and he gets that chance to build on what the favorable impression that he made in his debut last month at the Spa.
He's out of wedding jitters, so the name Risk It is a very good one indeed. Steve Asmussen, as you mentioned, the trainer of Risk It's, won this race 3 times, 2009, 2010, and 14. Only Belmont and Dale Romans have 4 wins, so he can join a elusive company there and tie the record for most wins in the Iroquois Stakes if Risk It looks as good this time as he did last time.
And they're moving in tandem after front-running Risk It as the field passes the quarter pole and turns for home. Risk It in front. Hunt Ball moves clearly into second to try and run him down, and he's coming with good-looking strides, too. It's Risk It digging in. Hunt Ball 2 behind in second as they come to the 16th. Risk It still under a hand ride from Tyler Gaffleone, and he opens up once again. A very sharp performance from Risk It, scoring by 4.
If you're looking for a pedigree play, maybe in the Iroquois Stakes, look for the sire Constitution. He had his son, Major General, win this race just 2 years ago. He's got Patriot Spirit on the outside off a big debut win at Colonial, and also Gettysburg Address for Brad Cox in a well-bred Constitution JoJo Warrior colt there. So 2 of them by Constitution, a sire who's able to get an early winner like this that won the Iroquois just 2 years ago. So maybe 2 alternatives to Risk It, who looks like the one to beat off that Saratoga smasher of a debut. Churchill Downs 10th race, we flipped the card. If you're looking maybe for a daily double, a multi-race bet may be the way to go. If you think the price on Risk It gets too short, look at the daily doubles, because we've got a field of 11 in the next race on the card. It's the Locust Grove. This is a race grade 3, $400,000. Mile on the 16th in the Breeders' Cup Distaff Division. It rematches, Jeff, 4 horses who ran in the La Troyenne back in Kentucky Derby weekend in grade 1 company. There were horses who were beaten that day, and now they're in the grade 3 ranks and trying to get their feet in what is a tough distaff division this year. So what do we make of this field and how they might sort out in the Locust Grove?
Yeah, these mares have run against each other. They kind of take turns. When I see this, the first thing I look at, okay, they're all capable of winning on a given day. Who does well at Churchill? And Search Results, even though she hasn't won at Churchill in 2 starts, but you can't say that she doesn't like the track. She got beat a neck in the Kentucky Oaks as a 3-year-old last year. And then earlier, back in May, she was beaten just less than a length, 1/3 in the La Troyenne, as you mentioned, ran a winning race. Now, her last 2 races, slightly disappointing for sure. In fact, she failed at 4-5 at Monmouth and the Molly Pitcher, but she's on her best day for Chad Brown. She is capable of winning this race, and she's one of several that you could say that about. So at 3-1, it's not a great price, but I guess it's solid, and it's probably what you'd expect if you want to back Search Results in the Locust Grove.
Let's go back and take a look at that La Troyenne. Again, 4 of the 7 runners in this race coming out of that one when they were run down by some very talented horses on the front end.
As they turn for home, Secret Oath explodes on the outside. Makes a huge run right up alongside of Played Hard. On the rails, Search Results is 3rd. Played Hard's not done yet. Played Hard inside. Secret Oath to the outside. Matching strides coming down to the wire. Then Search Results on the rail. They're coming down to the finish. And it's going to be Played Hard. Secret Oath. Search Results was next on the inside.
Jeff, you know I like history, and I usually throw something at you history-wise when it comes to horse racing. But the Locust Grove Stakes, I was thinking to myself, what the heck is Locust Grove? Is it a horse? Was it a broodmare? I went back and looked everything up. Turns out Locust Grove is a 700-acre estate with a lot of historical ties in Louisville and in the old days. And when Lewis and Clark traversed the United States, when they came back, they had their celebration at the Locust Grove for getting all the way across America and discovering the West. So a little bit of history lesson for you there. If you want to know where the Locust Grove is, it's in Louisville, and I don't think it's still 700 acres, but it's a national historical site. So I learned something. I've been going to Kentucky since 1994 was the first time I went to Churchill Downs, and I didn't know that. So sometimes Wikipedia is our friend.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting. All right.
Let's move on and try to not talk history anymore. Let's get back to horse racing here as we move to our next handicapping locale, being Woodbine, where it's their biggest weekend of the year in terms of the open company races. Of course, they had the King's Plate last month for the Canadian sired 3-year-olds in the first leg of the Canadian Triple Crown. But when you talk Woodbine Mile, it's the biggest race of the year in Canada, $1 million purse. And we will get to that third, but we're going to open up with the Summer Stakes in race number 6. The Summer Stakes is a race where Charlie Appleby's won it the last 2 years, but he didn't show up with one on the plane this year. Maybe it's because there's a local who's really, really good, Jeff. I mean, sometimes when you see the nominations for a stakes race and you think, can we bring one in to win this when you already have the plane coming? You would think Appleby and Godolphin would have had a 2-year-old to run here in the Summer Stakes. But as good as My Boy Prince looked last time, maybe that's a reason why nobody really wants to throw their name in the hat there to take him on. Let's go back and take a look at his big win in the Simcoe.
My Boy Prince put a space on them and raced out to lead by 6 or 7 or 8 lengths, and now you can just keep adding to that tally. And My Boy Prince, another Royal Command performance for the barn of Mark Cassidy and Gary Barber. My Boy Prince, another star on the rise by, that's 15 lengths. Second home is Yacht Boy, third Summer Commander. Behind them, Valerian Sky and Bearing Down, and the time 1:15:48.
Zario will pick up the mount for Mark Cassidy, who's got 5 of the 11 entrants in this race, but he probably only needs 1, Jeff.
Yeah, we've got some cross-entered fillies in this race as well, so we're not exactly sure who's going to run. But I tell you what, if I had my option of not running against My Boy Prince, I probably would take that option. Yeah. This is a colt. If you look at the form, you see he won a maiden by 6, and then he comes back and wins this Canadian race by 14. Mm-hmm. And on pure form, it's pretty impressive. But if you watch the race, you're even more impressed. He's a beautiful mover, a terrific athlete, smooth as silk on the racetrack, quick action, but puts them all down where they should be. He's just an outstanding athlete. So. And now he's going to grass from all weather, which you might say is a little bit concerning, but Cairo Prince has run on anything. And this is a 1-turn mile. So I would suggest that, he could probably make the lead here and run his rivals into the ground. It certainly didn't look like he was getting tired in that race we just saw. Yeah. So I think he'll win. He's listed at 3-1 on the morning line. I mean, there's some other nice horses in this race that could take some money, but I don't see anybody beating My Boy Prince. The only thing that you might be concerned about, it's back in 3 weeks, but I don't think that's enough to get him beat.
No, I don't think so either. And out of a silent name mare, that screams turf mile on the damn side. Sure. This is a turf mile. So My Boy Prince should be awfully tough. They've got that really long stretch run for the turf mile races here. The way he opened up in the stretch on the main there, I mean, it could get interesting if he's really in the groove on the turf like he was last time out with that long stretch run. He might put up another daylighter on the field. We will see in the Summer Stakes. To the 8th we go with the Natalma Stakes, and this is one where Mark Cassidy's won the Natalma 7 times, but he hasn't won it since 2016. He's got 4 of the entrants in here. Local trainer Kevin Attard's got 3, so they've got 7 of the 15 in what could be a tremendous betting race with 15 entrants. We'll see how many stay in the field. None of those are also eligibles. They can run all 15 in a turf mile in the expansive turf course there. But we talk about those 2 big local trainers with 7 of the 15. The out-of-town shippers are formidable in this spot. Charlie Appleby, Christophe Clement, Chad Brown. I mean, they're bringing the troops. So we will see if the locals can hold their stance here in the Talma. How do you see this one shaking out?
This is a good race, and you've got the Euro shipper from Applebee's Bar, #1, Dazzling Star, who I'm trying to evaluate on form. And I mean, she's okay, don't get me wrong, but she's not the overpowering import that we're used to seeing. I think she's beatable at 3-1. Erosa, I thought, was pretty impressive when she won her race to catch a glimpse at Woodbine, going 6.5. She's cross-entered in the colt race, but I would suggest she should probably stay here. She's an Uncle Mo filly. Looks like she'll love a one-turn mile. Then there's my gamble at 12-1, and that's #4, Brock Nardini. Now she's coming out of a maiden win at a state-bred maiden win, and I obviously this is a big step up in class. She was actually entered in the P.G. Johnson Stakes August 30th. Did not run because the race came off the grass, so this is a logical next step. And while this is a significant step up in class, I really liked her turn of foot. I thought she quickened like a nice filly. She's obviously the distance won't be a problem, and she looks like a filly that can sit back and blast home with that long run in from the top of the stretch to the wire. So at 12-1, it's a gamble for me. Brock Nardini pull off an upset in the Natama.
Well, we've seen George Weaver have a really good year with these 2-year-old turf sprinters, so it will be no stretch to see Brock Nardini be able to come and win this one-turn mile race with a horse who's already won around 2 turns. Let's look at the debut win by Brock Nardini, the daughter of Pallas Malice, when she won at Saratoga.
As the field turns for home, it's still Run for Your Honey clinging to a narrow lead. Belvoir, Brock Nardini with a sustained, strong, powerful bid. And opening up just like that, Coach Sessa has surfaced with a nice rally into second. It's all about Brock Nardini striding out very smoothly through the stretch. Brock Nardini wins by 4.5 emphatic lengths. Nice debut. Coach Sessa was clearly second best. Bernie takes charge, rallied into third, followed by Run for Your Honey.
And to the main event we go in our final handicapping task of this Saturday. It's the Woodbine Mile, $1 million purse here. One-turn race at Woodbine, as we mentioned earlier. A field of 6 here. We lost one of the players right before entry time, so Mark Cassie supplemented My Sea Cottage, I think, to help fill the field. But he's probably going to end up providing the pace in here. My Sea Cottage looks like the obvious front runner. And what I've got is the Express Bet Race of the Week. If you want my full analysis, be sure to check out the email newsletter. Sign up for that at Express Bet and First Bet. Jeff, Master of the Seas, the horse to beat in here. Charlie Appleby, Modern Games last year won this race when they came over. William Buick back to ride. Same connection, same Godolphin Blue. Master of the Seas will try to repeat what Modern Games did. He doesn't have the resume so far of Modern Games, but do you like what you see to this point?
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, this is a colt that got beat a nose in the 2000 Guineas as a 3-year-old, so he doesn't have to apologize for any of that form.
Right.
And in form, actually, this year, he only ran once last year at Newmarket and won a Group 3 race there, was off, came back. And other than the poor run in the Dubai Turf, he's been very consistent. I like the fact that he's fresh. He hasn't been out since mid-July. This is obviously a race that they've been pointing for. It's a $1 million race. I can't believe it. They've only managed to round up 6 here. For $1 million. I mean, Master of the Seas shows up here and looking around at where's the competition? And his most recent race at Ascot was dominating and earned a 125 time form rating, which I can tell you is it makes Master of the Seas an absolute standout. I mean, that's Modern Games type of number over there. So, I mean, he should go about his business. And in a small field, he won't have any traffic worries and pace worries. Even money on the morning line and looks every bit of that. Master of the Seas really should win this race.
Let's take a look at his win in the Summer Mile. Jeff said he's been off for a little bit since July 15th. Let's see how he looked when he was last on the track.
They turn into the home straight then, and it's Classic Causeway, but Jimi Hendrix comes to take it up. Here's Aldari, one from the left with his challenge. Extreme left is Mighty Ulysses. On the right is Master of the Seas. In the centre is Angel Blur. They're heading to the final furlong. Master of the Seas and James Doyle have taken it up. Aldari in second, Jimi Hendrix in third, Angel Blair behind these. The last trio are walking, they went so fast early on. Master of the Seas, held up by James Doyle, has come through to take it up though, is 3 lengths clear, and Master of the Seas is the winner. Aldari is just going to hold second to Jimi Hendrix, Angel Blair behind those, and Mighty...
Repeat of that looks awfully strong in here. The competition from the U.S., Ice Chocolat, a horse who's Canadian-based as well with Mark Casse, but last seen at Saratoga with a third-place finish to Casa Creed in the 4-star Dave. Makes a lot of sense underneath. Of course, Casse's got 3 of the 6 in here. He's won this race a couple times with Tepin and World Approval, but he does not have Tepin or World Approval in this year's field. This is not the strongest Casse hand that he's ever played in this race, but Ice Chocolat would make logical sense in here. And I thought underneath War Bomber deserved a shot in here. I think he's going to absolutely trip out. He should sit second, just like he did. He was second and did all the dirty work behind Treason last time and nailed that one on the wire. Treason was supposed to come back in this race out of the King Edward, but ended up not entering at the last minute. So War Bomber did all the dirty work last time and got the victory. I think he's going to get the same kind of trip. I mean, I think My Sea Cottage is the obvious front runner in here. War Bomber can sit second throughout, get first run, and then I think he's going to get swallowed up by Master of the Seas. But War Bomber's a horse I think you can consider under. Ice Chocolat makes a lot of sense from off the pace as well, rallying into maybe the second spot in here. But they're all chasing Master of the Seas, according to both of us, correct?
Yeah, and I think you're on to something with Ice Chocolat. I mean, there's nothing wrong with his third-place finish in the 4-star Dave, and he's run well. Good form over the course. So I think he's a logical horse to grind it out and complete the exacta. But I don't see anybody with the turn of foot that Master of the Seas has on his best day. And this was the race that he was pointing for, and Buick rides, and it's it is what it is. He's not the very best over there, but he's among the best, and he should be able to handle this field.
He should be a single as well in the multi-race bets, and that's important on Saturday because we got $10,000 in hit and splits on the pick 4s and pick 5s at Woodbine when you play with First Bet and Express Bet. So not only if you take down the early or late pick 5 and the late pick 4, not only will you get your pari-mutuel winnings, but you're going to add some cash to it in upwards of $10,000 between the 3 wagers. $4,000 added to the late pick 5 and the late pick 4, which again include that Woodbine Mile. The early pick 5 is seated with an extra $2,000. So take it down, you get your pari-mutuel winnings, and then you'll split the $10,000 with just other players on the platforms at First Bet and Express Bet who win on Saturday. And if you like this Woodbine card, it's a good time to take advantage of the handicap and tournament scene. There's a $1,000 online Woodbine Mile Challenge. This tournament is hosted by Woodbine Racetrack. Express Bet, proud to be an online partner of that. We'll have a ton of players playing through the Express Bet platform. So if you can't get to Canada to play in the Woodbine Mile Challenge handicapping contest, you can play it online Saturday at Express Bet. It's a $1,000 entry fee tournament with live money involved amongst that $1,000. So be sure to check it out in the tournament section at expressbet.com. And again, we talked all this Canadian stuff at the end of the show, but go back to the beginning where we talked Woodbine Mohawk Harness on Saturday night, $492,000 in the Super High 5 carryover for race number 12. So be sure to get Al Samaglia's analysis and picks for that in our blog section at First Bet and Express Bet. He'll have you geared up for that one on Saturday night at Woodbine Mohawk. So from the beginning of the day to late in the evening, it's going to be shining in Canada on Saturday, British Columbia Derby as well at Hastings. So big day north of the border, big day here domestically, Jeff, with the Kentucky Downs scene now shifting to Churchill Downs in the state of Kentucky. We've got some stakes action at Pimlico with 6 stakes races overall. A lot going on, and it's opening day today at Los Alamitos. So we want to be sure in Southern California, they've got 6 race dates at Los Alamitos between now and the opening at Santa Anita in a couple of weeks. Tell the fans what you've got coming for them on the blog section this week.
I'm going to have best plays for Saturday. We're kind of laying low a little bit until the beginning of Santa Anita, but there's lots to choose from. Let's face it.
Yes.
No matter where you go, the only thing that I have to be concerned about maybe is the weather. I don't want to give out selections and then have them scratch on off the turf type races. So I'll check that before I post them. So we'll see if we can come up with some mid-price, better price horses we can lean on and have some fun with, and then just gear up as the horses have returned from Del Mar to Santa Anita. So we'll have workouts that we'll be tracking and leading up to opening day at the end of the month, and enjoy racing around the country.
All right. So on behalf of everybody with First Technologies and my partner, Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. We'll see you on Tuesday on the It's Official podcast where we recap this big Woodbine Mile weekend. Good luck, everybody.